Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. And if there's any people in between, since that's quite a big topic now, right? I'm referring to section 377A. But never mind, leave that aside. It's just a joke. And second, I don't have a PowerPoint presentation. The university, the people who organized this seminar were kind enough to tell me that you don't need because you're handicapped. So I'm very happy, But seriously, I'm not a believer in a PowerPoint presentation. I've done it before, so don't go away with the impression that I'm not savvy with digital skills. I've done it before, but I found that people don't listen to you. They just look at the slides. When you are talking, they are looking at the slides. And I'm not sure whether they are concentrating on what I'm saying, And I'm glad to be here. This topic, which is fake news, I wrote down as fake news and depression, but I changed it to well-being, right? It's a more politically correct thing to say. Well-being is more politically correct. I call this kind of a double whammy of a title, because fake news or misinformation or disinformation is the subject of controversy. Somebody told me it's contention, or very contentious. Debate, a lot of debate with accusations flying this way and that way. And no real solution, being found. Many of you, I'm sure, are familiar with the accusations. And one of the biggest sticking points about fake news, especially in the Singapore context, is the authority which becomes the accuser and the judge. If you want me to elaborate, I can elaborate, but during question time, Sometimes it's better to leave things somewhat vague. But having said that, a person accused under POFMA, the rule that was introduced maybe a couple of years ago on online falsehoods, can appeal to a court of law. So there is an escape route. But that is another story. Again, I leave it. If you want elaboration, you can ask me during question time. This is the way I get out of a sticky problem. But I'm here trying to get to the crux of the matter instead of bringing a lot of other issues. So here is my take. One, the people who are spreading fake news are getting smarter at the game. And that makes it very difficult for all of us, including me. And I think I'm an expert in trying to separate fake news from real news, I'm not. I've been caught a few times too, So they're getting smarter at the game. They present such fake news in such a way that it looks so real, right? The one fake news that I got taken in by was, I think a couple of years ago. I'm not sure whether many of you remembered this, when Mr. Vivian Balakrishnan, our foreign minister, was in UN. He was there in UN, and there was this report. I don't know where it came from, but it appeared on my feed, which said that he had collapsed. It was such an unbelievable story, but I still believed it. I don't know why, right? Maybe I was naive, maybe I was got up on the wrong side of the bed, or whatever, But I believed it. At least momentarily, I believed it. Then I said, hey, but I think I must wait for. I'm sure there will be an MFA statement, or the Straits Times will report it, right? So I waited. I was so lucky that I didn't, in that kind of a mood, to send it to my friends, which I didn't. So I was happy, but I was momentarily taken in by that news. The second point I want to raise is that it has exposed the security ring that our society used to enjoy. Singaporeans are very well looked after in many ways. They are given in school, they are taught how to behave, how to make sure that you don't fall into a scam. So there are many like POFMA as an example is a protective measure, right? So we are very well protected, and that I think is where the danger is. When you protect your citizens so well, the citizens expect the government to sieve out all this fake news, which we all know it cannot do it, right? They have been, the Singaporean has been brought up to believe that everything they read is true. That's the way we have been brought up, right? Whatever we read in the Straits Times must be gospel truth, right? I mean, that's the way we have been brought up, And most times, I think the Straits Times does a good job, If you want to know where the Straits Times doesn't do a good job, you can also ask me later, I'm not. So it's not like, it's now, this government has this very interesting practice now, which is, in reply to a question from media, MFA said, which is to tell the world that we didn't come out with a statement. The media asked the question, so we gave our statement, So that I'm following that tradition. I can always say, no, I didn't say this on my own volition, but because media asked, because the people here asked me the question, so I answer. Now, in relation to my second point, is how does one fight this? I think that's the million-dollar question. POFMA is one way. I won't say POFMA is useless. But that is not all. That doesn't cover the entire ground. I think society as a whole must develop a certain sense of suspicion, if I can call it that, a certain sense of skepticism in what they hear, what they read, and use that to go and check your facts. I don't think our society has come to that stage. I hope it will come to that stage one day, and the people responsible for the society not reaching that stage are, one, our education system. I'm not referring to this university, but education system in total. I have two grandsons. One is 9 and one is 14. I interact with them very often, and I know that the school system doesn't teach them to be suspicious, to be skeptical. The second one is the home. I think there's a lot of work that can and should be done at home. And from what I can see, and this is one of my favorite topics now in my retirement, to to study, to look at how parents deal with their children. Firstly, they have no time because both husband and wife work. Secondly, that is not their concern, whether children get scammed, children get cheated. They're more interested in making sure the students study well, that their children study well and get good results. But how are you going to get good results? Good results are there, but you are going to enter the world, which is a very, very different world, which is a very scary world, where all kinds of scams, fake news are being spread. The third point is, don't go away with the impression that fake news is a new invention. It is not. I just saw a feed which said that as far back as Hitler's regime, and you know what year that is, right? A book that just came out recently called The Newspaper Axis. 6 of the most powerful English language newspapers in Britain were published praiseworthy articles of Hitler. Hitler was such a great chap. That's false news, right? We all know, unless there are some Hitler supporters around. Other than that, I think generally, it was true. So it is not new, it has been going on for a long time. And where I think the big difference today is the online media. That is where the big difference is, because today you can get it anywhere, anytime, this invention, right? It has, this internet, mobile phone, has thrown open an unimaginable amount of space to articulate, to argue, without any barriers. You can just say whatever you want. So my point is to focus only on the information that is fake won't solve the problem. The internet has also opened up spaces for the more responsible people in our society to analyze and comment on issues that were kept under the wraps for so long. So when I read the Straits Times and I look at some commentaries in social media, I get a better picture of I won't say the truth. The truth is only published in one newspaper in the world, and that is Pravda in Russia, because Pravda means the truth, right? But it has opened up. I give you my personal example. The Straits Times won't publish any article that I write. The Today newspaper won't publish any article I write. Yeah, he seems to be surprised. You go and check with the... I've written about that in my book anyway, but Yahoo will publish it, right? And in fact, my friends ask me, have you ever got a midnight knock on your door? I say no, because those days are over, After the Marxist conspiracy of 1987, ISA will never be used, I can guarantee you, will never be used against people like me. Right? They will use it for terrorists, but not against people who criticize the government, for example. So, now I'm free to write, right? And if any of you have read my articles, I am not anti-government, right? I write, I think, this is coming from a very personal point of view, I write in a very responsible way. I write with as objectively as I can. To write one article, it sometimes takes me 1 week. So now I'm in the process of looking whether I should write about Joseph's schooling. Right? And this morning I listened to the podcast, which Nicholas and Omer were involved in. And the first comment that was made by the third person who was there, the law professor in SMU, he said when he first read the news of Joseph's schooling, he thought it was false news. So the point I'm trying to raise here is you see how even intelligent people like him have to kind of sit back. What has the world come to, And also, not just for people like me, but even, if there is a website called academia.sg. I suggest that you go and look at it. And it is a very responsible site. You have people these are all people from academia. One of the good things about them is that most of them don't write like academics. They write, the president is laughing, They don't write like academics because they should be writing for the common public, right? And they have come out with some very good articles, The most recent article I read, which I found very, not just brave, but I think very purposeful, was describing our DPM as a compromise candidate. Now the word compromise is a loaded word, I leave it to your imagination, right? But they wrote it, And I'm sure many of you know Wong Gang-Hu. He's a historian. He's a very well respected China scholar. He said this in a recent interview. If you don't know the past, you are a victim of any story that comes along, and you don't know what to believe, and you just believe something that is said more often than others. The key point here is you need to know your past. If you don't know your past, a lot of things can be dug up and you will believe it because you don't know your past, right? So it is very, very important to understand your past, to know your past. And I think Singapore as a society has, my own experience, has failed in this. They know very little of their past, and they will then be easy to manipulate such people. So I've come to the final part, which is there a link between fake news and mental wellness? I think COVID-19 has been a godsend in testing this question. Research in the US shows that there is a link. I read the research and I think it is a kind of a tenuous link. I don't think it is, you can establish the link now. Yeah. How many minutes? 2 minutes, is it? 1 minute. Okay, I'll finish now. I never knew I was so long-winded. People in charge of the survey believe that public with depression problems might experience more, might believe such fake news. As I said, I'm not 100% sure. So when you have a mental illness problem, the chances of you believing fake news are greater, according to this research. So one of the issues that they tested was vaccine. people describing vaccines as not good. It can kill you, it can cause all kinds of things, And as I said, and this survey shows that if you have a mental illness problem, then the chances of you believing that the vaccine is not good are greater. So I will end off by saying this. We are into a very, very, we are already in, I describe this as a very, very scary world. So those of you who are married, better not have children, right? Those of you who are not married, get married, but don't have children. No, it is such a huge responsibility. This family is a big concern of my concern. Because I think the family, the way the parents deal with their children, and I've seen this with my own eyes. It's really not doing. It's not really going the right way. So today is misinformation. Tomorrow it could be something else. We don't know, right? So I think the psychiatrists who are dealing with this problem have a big job cut out for them. So in that kind of a depressing mood, I will stop. Thank you very much.